Good evening. I'm William Pace. Thanks so much for tuning in the William Pace Show tonight. My special guest is Angela Yowsey. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, sir, you are.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have to tell the viewers how we met. We have a common acquaintance, a friend, called BJ Christmas. And I had started, talking with her 5 or 6 weeks ago or so, and she's going to be a future guest on a future show. And but somehow she mentioned my show to you, and then you reached out to me, and then the more I got to know about you, I say, wow, this would really be a nice show. So tell us a little bit about you. You are a registered nurse.
Yes, sir.
And you are married.
Yes, sir.
And you have an interracial marriage relationship, and
Yes.
it's sort of like a blended family, so
Oh,
to
very
speak.
much.
And that really, in a time when we're living where people are having so many problems trying to get along, not only interracially, but in their own race, to put, two different races together and blend them into a wonderful family, that's just not heard of too much today. So I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such an honor, and everybody loves BJ, so I'm glad you kind of recognized her.
Yeah.
But we have been married nearly 30 years. So talk about, not so common. It was really not so common 30 years ago, but I always saw people as people, and my husband saw people as people, and people, I think we miss out on opportunities to know one another, love on one another, learn something about one another by just accepting who we are. We can't change the outward appearance of anyone. So we just decided that it didn't matter what anybody else thought, and we were committed to each other and our family. So we blended them together. We have 6 wonderful sons, now all adults. And I had gone through a divorce. My husband had gone through a divorce. It was horrible divorces. And honestly, I was just done. And he was too. And that's kind of what brought us together, is because our stories were so similar to what we both had gone through. And we both had custody of our young sons at 3.5 years old. And
wow.
I told, and the sons just loved each other, and we found ourselves loving each other as well. So we got married, and here we are, writing stories on how people can get along, and it's just been a wonderful journey.
It is wonderful, and what's wonderful about it is that I would imagine your sons really see themselves as brothers. That's what they know. So they don't think of it as being from maybe as a blended family as such, but they're just, brothers.
Absolutely. We always say racism doesn't just start in people's hearts, it's planted there. And we always told them, this is your brother. You stick up for your brother. If they didn't, they had to deal with us when they got home. So we always set a precedent that we have to be family. We have to support each other. If we're all united together, we cannot fail. And so we drilled that into them, and they just saw people as people. And we just feel so blessed that our sons, 4 of them, went and served this country, 2 in the military, 2 in the Air Force, and 2 in the Navy. And, they've turned out to be great kids, and they just love people, as they should.
That is wonderful. We need to see and hear more stories such as yours.
Thank you.
I understand from your marriage and from the interracial marriage, rather, that it evolved into a book. That you wrote a book about interracial relationships. And so what was the main thing that you were trying to object to get out before the people?
Yeah, so the book, we've been doing ministry for nearly as long as we've been married. We literally started out our first year because people thought, wow, if they can make this work, then they must have some tools that we need to apply to our marriage and their relationships. So people will call us and come over and sit on our couch. We had no idea what we were doing as far as where this would lead us. And so then we found that we had a classroom and a house full of people that were sitting just to hear how we make relationships work. And so it became to the point where a publishing company heard of our story and thought we need to put this in a book. And we were thinking of it as well because it's just two of us 7 days in a week and there's just not enough support. So we wrote a book about it. And from there, it all happened right around the time that George Floyd, the incident happened with all of that. So, of course, the news, Channel 10 here in Columbus, heard about our story and the principles in our book. Although the book was written for relationship and marriage, the principles are still good, no matter any kind of relationship.
Applicable to many situations.
Yes. Absolutely. So they reached out, and it was just wonderful because as I watched the whole story unfold, my heart broke because I'm living where people don't look the same, and yet we are getting along and we love each other and it can happen. So I was totally disturbed by the whole thing. And I thought we can do this. If we just work together, we win. If we work against each other, we lose. We all lose. So they did the story on it. And it was just wonderful to have some kind of hope, some kind of light during that time.
It's interesting, how God can work, from one thing to another, just like you started having meetings in your home about interracial relationships and so forth, and how that developed into a publisher, and just one thing sort of leads to another.
Yes.
More with Angela Yalsey when we return. Stay with us. Good evening. Thanks so much for tuning in the William Pace Show. My special guest tonight is Angela Yalsey. Thank you so much for being on the program. Now, we were talking before a break about the book. So tell us about the book, the title of the book, and tell us about some of the chapters in that.
Very good. So we have actually two books out. The first one is called Creating Unity, What You Need to Know to Lead a Marriage Support Group. And the second one is Reignite Passion, Your Guide to a Happier Marriage. And so
wow.
Yes.
So those are sort of like what you say, like guidelines in a marriage or in interracial relationships as to what to look for.
So the books are actually about relationships as a whole. It doesn't really matter. We do talk about our story and some of the challenges that we had to deal with in the chapters, because a lot of people need to know about this and how to maneuver through all of that. But the book actually kind of fits anyone in a relationship or who wants to have a better marriage.
And what are some of the hurdles, some of the things you talk about that people have to get over or learn to navigate through? Yeah,
in regards to interracial relationships?
Interracial relationships or not.
Yeah, well, the biggest hurdle that every couple that comes to us, because we do marriage coaching as well. And so when almost every couple that comes, communication is always a big one. And so I always tell people when they're complaining and arguing with each other and fighting, I remind them, okay, what's your goal? What's the goal for both of you? And usually once we can discover the goal, because they could sit on our sofa for hours and say, he said, she said, but is that going to get you to your goal? So I always reroute them, my husband and I, and say, okay, we understand you have these problems and we understand whose fault it is and how real it is. But if we're going to stay there, we're never getting anywhere. So let's focus on the goal. How can we get you to the goal? So we redirect them there, and it's amazing. Once they walk out I mean, we've had some most incredible stories of, one example is we had a husband and wife who, he had come home and discovered that his wife was having an affair. And they called us, and it was one of those emergency meetings that we had with them. And they walked in and he was just hurt, I mean, to the core. And so we talked about their goals, and he says, no, I don't want to lose my family. She didn't want to lose her husband. And I said, okay, yes, there's a problem. We understand that. Yes, there's some hurt, but let's get to the goal. And as they walked out, they stopped on our porch and they were holding hands, and they said, turned around and they looked at us. They said, no, wait, what just happened? And to this day, they are in ministry. They have another baby. So it's been a couple of years now, and we're just so over the moon proud of them that they understand how to create unity now. So it's a wonderful opportunity to make a difference. And, you know, divorce affects everyone, children, you know, the whole family. So we just avoided that. And that's an honor and a privilege that we get to serve God that way.
It is a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful ministry to witness to people. Do you find that in interracial relationships that there's a cultural difference, and how do you navigate through those cultural differences?
Yes, there is a lot of cultural differences. Here's the thing with us. I'm not trying to be my husband. He was a farm boy. He came from wealth. I am a city girl. I lived in Atlanta. I lived in a small town of Lima, and we didn't have a lot of wealth. So, you know, my family migrated from the South. So we knew Southern eating and our Southern cuisine. And so, so, you know, merging all of that. But what I found is I learned so much. I would have never known about hunting and buying a whole beef for our freezer and, you know, all the winter wheat and tractors and all those things. So it's been wonderful to merge all that and to learn from each other. And you know, our family, my boys, they know how to work and to do things that I was never exposed to. So it's never been an issue. We talk about it, we laugh about it, but it is a gift from God who we are. So if your focus is on, it is celebrate one another. So we've always said that. When we first got married, it was kind of funny because my husband wasn't used to, you know, like I told him, I said, now when you get my son out of the bath, make sure you put oil all over his skin. And he didn't know what that meant. So he took a big clump of Vaseline and wiped it all over me. He was shining like a new penny. And I said, not enough to fry chicken. So, you know, we've had our experiences like that, but it has never been an issue.
Yes, we Black people, our skin tends to dry. So we have to stay moisturized, you know, constantly. And those are just little things. But, you know, if there is love there, genuine love, you know, love will conquer all, you know.
Absolutely.
It will conquer all. Tell us some more of the chapters in the book. And also I wanted the viewers to know, give us the name of the books again, and where can they purchase the books?
Sure. It's Reignite Passion, The Guide to a Happier Marriage, and Creating Unity, What You Need to Know to Lead a Marriage Support Group. And you can go to Barnes & Noble. You can go to Amazon. If you just Google it, it'll pop up everywhere. And but yeah, that's the name of the books, and that's how you get a hold of them.
And it's such ministry is what I want to say for people who are in interracial relationships, because many times, you know, you're coming from situations where you don't get the support from maybe either side of the family, you see? And then to have this book out there and to talk about some of the issues that you have to face in interracial relationships could only be I would think, a blessing for people to read it.
That's so true. And, you know, it hasn't always been easy for us, but it didn't feel like it wasn't easy, because here's the key. When you get in an interracial relationship, you both have to be 100% in. I mean, it's got to be buy-in 100%. So when we got married, it was no question that we're family. And, you know, my husband's side of the family, they weren't real receptive initially. And it was one of those things that they would ask for the lighter colored skin kids to come over and not the other one, you know. So my husband would say, no, we are a family. If you want us, you got to, it's all or none. All or none. Yes, sir. So I've always felt protected. And I always tell people in these kind of relationships, if a spouse is in a relationship like this and they do not feel protected, you're not going to stand for too long. So I always felt protected. My husband has always made me feel like, no, I belong to you and you belong to me. You're my priority. And so I've done the same, and my family has always accepted him. So it wasn't as much of a challenge for me as it was him. But as we progressed through time and we kept loving on each other and showing them that this is what a good family should look like, then they started slowly coming around and accepting.
So it sounds, if I hear you correctly, it sounds like with you and your husband being very strong in who you are, strong in the marriage, that it made both sides of the family be strong in your relationship.
That is so true and so good. And it is true. You know, I would never forget the day that my father and my father-in-law sat on the back porch and just shared old stories. And as I watched the whole thing unfold, I was thinking to myself, they're no different. They came from the same exact background. They came from farmers, and they're having this conversation like, you know, good old boys. And I thought, this is the way it should be. It should not be, we're missing out on great conversations, on great opportunities, because we're focusing on the flesh.
That's a wonderful testimony. More with Angela Yowsey when we return. Stay with us. Good evening, I'm William Pace, and thanks so much for tuning in tonight. My special guest is Angela Yowsey. Thanks so much for being on the program tonight, Angela. And give a special thanks to BJ Christmas for connecting us. And BJ Christmas is going to be on a future show, so be sure to tune in regularly to the William Pace Show to see her. I understand that you have a big conference coming up soon, in a couple of weeks.
Yes, a big one.
Okay.
And actually, it's in 8 days.
8-day conference. Okay.
Yes.
Tell us what the purpose of the conference is about.
Okay, so a little over a year ago, the Lord laid it on my heart to I invited 6 women to my home, and I just knew it was time to launch a women's support group. And we literally planned the whole entire year at that meeting. And we were going to do these little small things like sleepovers and all these little trips and things. And so the next month we launched, and to our surprise, 62 women showed up.
Wow.
Yes. So we realized then this was much bigger than us. And so we started doing monthly meetings. Our group is called Made for More, Women in Unity, and we're in Columbus, Ohio. And so as a celebration of the 1-year anniversary, we are hosting our Made for More Now is the Time Women's Conference. And it's going to be on May 20th and 21st.
Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful. So I hear that you have some phenomenal guests coming, and I understand BJ Christmas is coming?
That's correct. So it's the whole, I mean, it's just the most incredible. I'm trying to contain myself here and not get too excited, but I'm very excited. So we have Prophet Pamela Edwards coming all the way from Hartford, Alabama. Wow. And then we have Patti Austin from Columbus, Ohio. She has a wonderful ministry coming out of some serious domestic violence. We have Rochelle Castillo. She's a minister here. Pastor Shar Barnett from Columbus, Ohio. Amber Mabry, myself, and of course, BJ just got added to the lineup. BJ Christmas coming all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, and I didn't even know BJ. I called her for our business purposes, and she got so excited about hearing about the conference that the next thing you know, she was booking her airline, reserving her seat, and reserving her hotel room, and she is coming to be in the conference. And as we progress in our friendship, she is now on the lineup to speak at the conference.
You know, isn't it interesting how God can work, you know?
Yes.
And how he can connect people, and from if we just follow the directives and we listen, you know, God can use us in a powerful way.
Yes.
In a powerful way. And I've often, you know, thought all these years I've been on the air that that this has been a real call on my life, because I've touched the lives of so many people, and
Yes.
and that's what we want to do. We want to use our lives to empower people, to encourage people, to lift people up, to help them to be all that they can be in this
Yes.
life, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what Made for More is all about. It's supporting each other. We laugh together, we cry together. But at the end of the day, we want to support women to become all that God has placed in them. And so many women have not been able to do that for various reasons. And this conference is all about a reset. It's to help people to think differently and to expect that something's going to be different when they leave the conference. So it's just going to be a powerful weekend, and the momentum is building, and people are super excited about it, and they're reserving rooms here. We have a block of rooms, and even the people that live locally, they're saying, I'm just taking a complete break from life. I'm getting a hotel room right here in the city, and I'm just going to be all into this conference. So we're just really, the whole team is just, we're so thrilled that we get to celebrate the 1-year anniversary, and we just don't know where God's going to take it from here. Just like our relationship, you know, BJ and myself, who would ever guess? You know, only God could have done this, right?
You see, only God could, you know, put people together, you know, because we're talking about, let's analyze this. BJ is in Charlotte, and she reached out to you in Columbus, Ohio, Dublin, Ohio, and I'm in Dayton, Ohio. So you see, there had to be some connection going on, you know, and so, and who's to say how many people seen this program tonight, how that will lead to people there, you know?
Yes.
So it's you just have to know that if God has given you a vision, God will make the provisions for you. You know, the scripture tells us if God gives us a vision, if without vision we will perish, okay?
Yes.
And then a friend of mine, Tommy Nichols, said, you know, I picked this up from him. He said, if God gives you a vision, he will make the provisions for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
It's been just what you said. It's been the most incredible thing. Even when I was talking to BJ and I was talking about, you know, wanting to do this commercial, and then one of our sponsors, one of our local banks said, we want to pay for it. And they took care of the bill. And then, you know, I'm just calling people that the Lord laid on my heart, and I'll call them and I'll say, hey, I just want to make sure you know about the conference. And the lady was on the phone and she's crying, and she says, I have goosebumps just crawling all over me. And she said, just because you called me, she said, I've been watching it on social media, but because you called me, I know that this was what I need to do. And she registered. So miracles like this are happening in this conference. So I know that God is behind it. He's breathing on it. And I just want all the ladies to come out and just see. I mean, you can't lose by being a part of it.
No, you can't. For the viewers listening tonight and watching, let's give them a telephone number where they can call and a website where they can get more information.
Yeah. So if the website has all the information on it, and it's m4mohio.com. It's real simple, m4mohio.com. And we are also on Facebook at Made for More Ohio, and you can reach us through Messenger there as well. So if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I personally will answer them.
Wonderful. And I would like to give you the opportunity after the conference to come back and give us an update
I would love to do that. Love it.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the program tonight. Angela
Thank you.
Yowsey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's more to come on the William Pace Show. Stay with us.